Right on. Welcome back, or just welcome to the channel, everybody. Today, I have a little video. I'm hoping it's not going to be too long, but recently I was looking around, trying to find some figures that I can use on my big diorama that I'm working on right now, and I stumbled across this MG Crew. It's just two figures, and I realized that it was probably the worst paint job I ever did in my life. Like, this is my second batch of like painting figures. So I had painted some before, but somehow those were even better than these. These were just horrible. And I think I was maybe going for some sort of a winter camouflage, you know, with the hats or with the caps. Sorry. So yeah, it's pretty bad. And I left bits unpainted, all of that. So I'm wondering if I can sort of save this. And simply said, no. No, I cannot. But I'm gonna restart. So this is sort of like an interesting style of video, I guess. I guess it'll be an updated version of the first video I made, which was how I paint my 1/35th scale figures. So I guess this is going to be a German MG Crew in summer of '44. Except I'm still not sure if I want to use this on my big diorama, or if I want to make a separate small, like, little vignette for it. Maybe a 10 by 10 centimeter one. Something like that. Either way, I'm going to do that with another MG Crew that I have. But let me know in the comments below if I should do this, or if I should do this in the diorama, or if I should make its own little vignette. So I have no clue how I'm going to do this, but that's the fun of it, I guess. But if you do learn something new during this video, I would greatly appreciate it if you liked, subscribed, anything like that. Support is always appreciated, and if you want some more frequent updates on my projects, you can follow my Instagram. And yeah, let's get into it. So just before we do actually get started with the painting process and the cleaning, I guess, I want to sort of quickly do, I guess, a bit of an analysis on how I'm actually going to do this, because I have zero clue. So luckily, I didn't actually paint the color of the uniform. This is just the color of the plastic that comes out of the box, which, you know, looking back was pretty smart, except it's incredibly shiny, and yeah, it's pretty bad. Now, as you can see, the dumb bag here, I glued it upside down because I was a stupid little child, even though it was only a year ago. I didn't use any primer, so all of the paint is chipping away on the boots and the cap and everything. I did not paint anything with oils, which is nice because then I can clean it with just thinner, paint thinner, and that should be pretty easy. Now, I'm gonna have to be quite careful as well, because a lot of these bits seem quite delicate at the moment, and especially if I'm going to be using a lot of thinner, it might be a little brittle. So chances are I'm probably going to break something during this video. But so what I reckon I'm going to do is I'm going to just clean everything with some thinner and just remove all of the paint and restart. And I'll probably also glue a bipod on the MG 34, 32. I don't know. I gotta research this stuff. And I'll probably fix the dumb bag as well. So yeah, this is gonna be an interesting project. I don't know how this is gonna turn out. So wish me luck. So like I said, the plan was basically to clean the whole thing. Now I started out by doing this with the Vallejo airbrush thinner and just a paper towel. But I don't know, that didn't really seem to fully do the trick. So in the end, I ended up soaking it and pulling it out, and it really peeled off easily. So, but then there was still a lot of paint in the cracks and crevices. So what I ended up doing was just some thinner on a paintbrush, and it did the job. Except I didn't really paint or clean the paintbrush well enough last time, so there was still some reminiscence of the paint, but it all got figured out. And then fixing the dumb bag here, I just pull it off with my X-Acto blade, and then glue it back on with some Revell professional contact glue. This time the right way up. I double checked. Yeah. And then adding the bipod. This was usually this is included in the kit. I didn't have it, but I managed to get one from another Tamiya weapons kit. So yeah. And then a really important detail is removing the mold lines. Now, generally, I'm not really good at this, actually. You'll see even in some of the end pictures, I miss some spots, but it really, really does make a difference. It's super noticeable after you paint it because layers of paint accumulate on it, and it's really noticeable. But yeah, then to just clean up the rough edges, I come in with some more modeling glue, again on a paintbrush, and it just cleans up the rough edges so that they're not as noticeable after you're done painting. Then the last detail before we start painting is the sling. Now I just cut out a 5 centimeter section of aluminum foil and eventually glued it on to the MG, which you'll see in a second. But yeah, I highly recommend this technique, actually, the sling. It's a technique that I feel is overlooked by a lot of people, but especially for beginners. It's a super easy technique that it just adds a certain depth of detail, or depth and detail. So I highly recommend this, not only to beginners, but also, advanced people who don't do this, because it really does up the level of your models just that extra little bit. And if you want to be super, realistic and everything, you could probably get a kit for like buckles and stuff that you put on the edges. But this is good enough for me, to be honest, because yeah, I still consider myself a partial beginner or semi-advanced, Then finally moving on to the painting, just some black Vallejo surface primer. Just a solid coat on there, just so that you don't see the color underneath. I like this primer, highly recommend. Yeah, it's a primer. It's polyurethane. But then when you add the primer on the MG, I recommend that you lower the PSI a little bit. I was working on the MG at around 10 to 15 PSI, whereas I usually work at 20 to 25. That's just because the sling is a bit fragile, so you don't want to risk breaking it with the air pressure. So yeah. And now to get the color of the uniform, I just mix a third olive green, light gray, and yellow olive. Now that gives sort of a nice, maybe not entirely realistic field gray, but for me it's good enough. I'm not one of those super hyper realistic guys when it comes to historical accuracy, but I actually wanted to keep similar colors as before, before we cleaned it, just to sort of show that it's just an upgrade, not per se a restart, even though it is a restart, but you know what I'm getting at. So this is actually a pretty similar color to the plastic when it comes out the box. So that's sort of what I was going for. And then I start with the all the parts that you paint black, just because those are usually the biggest parts of the figures. So starting out with boots here, yeah, just going for sort of a dark black leather look.
This shit's fire, dog.
Yeah, and then painting the belt or battle belt, you know, harness.
To be around your family. I've known them since I was 10.
Yeah, really, really not a lot to it. Just using black from Vallejo. And you'll also notice in this clip that I'm using a new paintbrush, which I was very excited about. The paintbrushes actually came in right before I was going to film this bit, which is really nice. I much prefer these thinner brushes now. And to paint the skin color, I get some red, some white, some light brown, and occasionally I also use burnt umber just to darken it down a little bit, and mix it to your own ratio. Sorry, I don't really do fixed ratios often, but yeah, this is pretty simple, just the hands and the face. And it was at this point where I was really happy to actually have these thinner brushes, because my other brushes used to be thin, but they're getting pretty bad these days. So I can officially call those old brushes. Yeah, so painting the face. One day I'll get to painting the face like with eyes and lips and everything, but as it is now, I'm not really I'm not really great with such small detail. So one day, you know. And then painting the textiles, I have my own wood mixture, which I put some on my palette and mix with a drop of burnt umber. This gives me just a sort of darker color than my wood mixture. So I paint the dump bag with this, and eventually parts of the canteen as well. Again, this is a pretty similar color to what I was using before we cleaned this, just a tad darker. And then using the actual wood color, I paint the wood bits, which on these figures is limited to the wooden handle of the shovel, but on other figures this could be the handle of the bayonet or the stock of the rifle as well. And I also use this to paint the stock of the MG later on. And then with some burnt umber, I like to paint in leather straps and everything. And again, very grateful to have these thinner brushes. Now, I've heard some people say, and you know, I also have experience with this personally, that they prefer mahogany over burnt umber for these parts. I'm guessing they think it gives a newer leather look. Yeah, I don't know. Personally, I don't really like it. It's a bit too coppery for me, if that makes sense. It's just, yeah, it looks too much like copper. So I stick to burnt umber, and yeah, I hear strap on the what's it called, on the canteen and everything. And then I go in to paint the metallic parts. Now, usually you should use something like chrome silver, or you know, something like that. I actually don't have that. I know, horrible. So I just use light gray and then darken it down with a drop of black. That gives sort of a darker steel-like look, or well, more like aluminum, but just a general metallic look. And then later on, we're gonna add highlights and metallic highlights, and that'll make it look actually like metal. So then I also use the same color to paint buckles and all of that, parts of the canteen as well, and eventually the metal parts of the shovel as well, you know, all that stuff. So yeah, belt buckle, everything. And yeah, this is then I use the same color, although I accidentally didn't film it. I also use the same color for the MG. Then with some black and some burnt umber, I create a sort of very dark leather, and I eventually paint in the Luger Holstler, which, you know, looking at some old reference pictures, they some people say that they're black, and some are, yeah. But I've also seen some holsters that are just a very, very dark brown. So that's sort of what I was going for here. And yeah, mission accomplished. I think it looks pretty good, personally. And then coming to the final details, painting the hair with light brown. This sort of gives a blonde look. And unfortunately, I forgot to film it. I apologize. But I also painted the stand holder for the MG yellow olive. So yeah. Then using white, I just do final details, so the insignias, you know, rank and everything. And unfortunately, again, I'm sorry I didn't film it, but I also painted in the MG, which was just, you know, the stock was my wood mixture. Then the metallic parts were the metal color that we used earlier, and I painted the sling in burnt umber. What I did manage to film, however, was using this very cheap acrylic gold that I used from, or that I bought from a art supply store in Asia, in Thailand. I painted in the rounds that were being fed into the MG. Now, I only painted the lower, or you only have to paint the lower portion of it, because then I went in later and painted the top portions with sort of a lead color, which was basically the same metal color as we were using earlier, just a bit darker. And then now, moving on to the weathering steps, I have some black oil paint and some umber, just to mix up into an oil wash. So of course with some white spirit. Now in the end, I think this ended up being a bit too opaque, so I should have either added less paint or more white spirit. Because yeah, it just ended up being a bit too intense, which I wasn't really happy with. But yeah, this just helps make shadows basically, and it brings out all the smaller details. So I quite like this part. So now once that's dry, as you can see, it's pretty nice. Except now we're going to bring out some of the highlights again. Basically all I'm going to do is just grab some white and grab a soft bristle flat brush. And we're going to do what we call dry brushing, which is basically you just dip your brush in some white and you remove almost all the paint onto a paper towel. Until it leaves just the very faintest of highlights. Now, if you have too much paint on your brush, it just doesn't really look too great, to be honest. There's no real way to describe it unless you've experienced it. But yeah, so just adding a faint highlight. So it's quite it's quite nice, quite a nice little effect. And then using Revell glue and an old brush, I just paint together all the bits. No real point in showing you guys that. Once that's done, I give the whole thing a solid coat of matte acrylic varnish from Vallejo. And so yeah, I just give it two reasonably sized coats. And the very last detail, which I like to do, is just with a soft pencil. I like to go over all the metallic details and add metallic highlights, like I was talking about earlier. So yeah, just on all the metallic parts, and this just adds a great little effect, and it makes it that extra little bit more convincing, you know. So yeah, it's very nice. And once that's done, that's actually pretty much it. Alright everyone, well that's gonna have to do it for this week's video. I really hope you enjoyed this. I think this is probably gonna be in my Let's Transform playlist if you want to watch it again sometime later or something. Yeah, I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, or you learned something new, I'd greatly appreciate it if you would let me know by giving the video a like or something. But really, any support is appreciated. Subscribing, anything like that. Again, if you want more frequent updates on my videos or on my projects, you can follow my Instagram. With that said, that's it. Enjoy your day, and see you guys next week. See you.